Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. If you would just take a minute and put your name and where you're from in the chat so we know who we have with us today, we'd really appreciate that. I just want to welcome everyone. My name is Elizabeth Siri. I'm the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning at Foundations, Inc. And you have joined us for one of our Beyond School Hours National Education Conference follow-up webinars. So we're so happy to have you for this series. Before we start, I just want to give you a little bit of a background about Foundations, Inc. We are a national education nonprofit. We're located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and our mission is to improve the quality of education by building the skills of educators. And we work in schools and in after-school programs with districts and at the state level in order to create a brighter future for every child every day. If you're interested in learning more about Foundations, you can take a minute and follow us on social media, and Paula will make sure we get that in the chat. You also might already know us from our signature professional learning event, the Beyond School Hours Conference. Our conference is held every February, and this year, 2022, I keep saying this year, but I mean 2022, we're going to be back in Orlando, Florida, February 23rd through the 26th, and we would like you to all be our guests. So join us in person. We're so excited to be back. Now I just want to say welcome to Allison Hood, Associate Director of VOX ATL, and Brooklyn Williams, Teen Leader and Staff Writer at VOX. They're going to share their high-tech and low-tech strategies for connecting and creating caring environments. So thank you both for joining us today.
Of course, I'm happy to be here. Allison, did you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say hi. Back to you, Brooklyn.
Okay, cool. So my name is Brooklyn Williams. I'm 16 years old and I'm a teen staff writer at VOX ATL and former teen editor with VOX ATL. And with that being said, we can move on so that I can introduce what VOX is for those of you that don't know. Oh, sorry. VOX ATL is a 28-year-old nonprofit teen-led organization that encourages youth voice through various means of self-expression and journalism, various means of facilitation and publishing. We pride ourselves in power sharing with both the adult teen staff, the adult staff and the teen staff through different leadership roles that we have here, which you will see as, or you will see that throughout this community building workshop.
Rachel, would you go to the next slide for us?
I'm wondering if it's not working on your end, because I just watched all the really cute pictures and I'm looking at the agenda overview on my end. So let me take my screen down. Hi, y'all. I'm also with VOX ATL. I'm our mission director and colleague to Allison and Brooklyn. And I'm sorry that Zoom is suddenly not letting me be great. Let me reshare in a moment. Go ahead and keep going and I'll catch up with you with the visuals.
Okay, cool. So while we are fixing our technical difficulties, I just wanted to quickly go over our agenda overview. So we're going to do a welcome and go around after this, which are VOX staples. After that, we're going to do a couple of energizers and mindful moments and talk about our intentionality around doing certain energizers and go around questions and how that connects to building community in the VOX space. We are then going to discuss ground rules and programming at VOX. And then we're going to talk about some low tech ways to build community, using content to build community. So you are going to hear about the different content types that we produce at VOX, and then you're going to end with a Q&A and a closing. And with that being said, we can move on to our tech check. So I just wanted to do a quick tech check. And basically what that is because we are over Zoom and because this is virtual, we wanted to make sure that everything is straight with technology. And because we are recording, if you feel so inclined to turn on your camera, please make sure that your background and lighting is appropriate. In the event that we are recording. So if you do turn your camera on, make sure that your lighting and background is appropriate. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking, which you are you are doing that perfectly. If you would like to see all of us for the best viewing experience, go to the top right-hand corner of your screen if you are on a laptop and click the view icon, and then there should be a drop-down menu of the different ways that you can view the screen. You can do side-by-side gallery so that you can see all of us in addition to the screen that is being shared. Please feel free to use the chat and reactions if you agree with something, if you have a comment about something, use that to actively participate. Use your name tag or your Zoom name with your initials or your pen name. In this case, you're just saying your name, your pronouns if you feel comfortable doing so, and yeah. The last thing I wanted to mention is the annotate function, which we will be using that later on for ground rules. If you do not know how to use the annotate function, if you were on a laptop or a mobile device, there is a little green bar at the top of your screen that says you are viewing the name of the host screen. In this case, it is Rachel. There's a little black bar next to that that says view options. If you click that, there will be a drop-down menu and you will see a button that says annotate. Once you click that, you should be able to annotate on the screen. I'm just gonna model that really quickly just so y'all can see what I'm talking about. But for those of you that can, if you can see me scribbling on this screen, that is what the annotate function does. There are numerous amounts of options from putting text, drawing, stamps, etc., etc. And yeah, so that's how to use the annotate function. I'm gonna quickly clear drawings and we can move on. All right, so a VOX staple is always making sure that we have a go run question whenever we are in a meeting, whether it is internal or external. We do this because we get to know people better. If we are in a event where we don't know everyone, and it just gets people talking and it gets people energized. So for today's go run question, we will be doing it on a Menti, which Allison has put the code in the chat. Like the instructions say at the bottom, you go to menti.com and you enter the code. And once you all have that set up, the go run question is, if you could describe your mood with a weather forecast, what would it be? And you're going to say your name, age, your pronouns, school, or role, and the answer to the go run question. I'm going to model it for you all while you fill out the Menti. My name is Brooklyn Williams. I am 16 years old. My pronouns are she, her. I attend the New School of Atlanta. And if I could describe my mood with a weather forecast, it would probably be sunny, but with a couple of clouds. Not so much that the clouds like overshadow the sun, but that they like work together to create like a bunch of sunshine. And I'm gonna pass it to Allison.
Thanks, Brooklyn. I'm Allison. I'm 34. I use she, her pronouns, and I work at VOX. And my mood today is sunny with a chance of hail. And I'm going to pass it to Solomon, if that's okay.
Sure, it's you can pass it up. I thought I was supposed to be writing this. Okay. If you could describe your mood with a weather forecast, what would it be? Okay. My name is Michael Harrell. My age is 69. I use pronouns he, she. The school, I'm at Pimlico Elementary Middle School with the U.S. Dream Academy. And my forecast would be a heat wave.
Thank you. We thought we could do have a few folks share out loud, and everybody is welcome to use the Menti as well. Or you can put yours in the chat. Sometimes devices don't cooperate with us. So Michael, would you pass to somebody else that you see on your screen?
I sure will. I'll pass it to Kay.
Hello. Well, I just posted mine in the Menti, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself. Kay Lewis. I'm with the Missouri After School Network. here in St. Louis area of Missouri. I posted sunny and partial cloudy. So let's see, you want me to pass it on to someone else?
Yes, that would be great if you could pass it to whoever you see on your screen.
Let's see. I see Rachel. I can't see anyone else. Rachel?
Sure. And if you're on a mobile device, you can see more people by swiping, I think it's to the left. I'm
Yeah.
Rachel. I work at VOX ATL. I put mine in the Menti too. It's a sunny day in my mood over here. I also put into the chat just this concept of trying to pass to the person maybe next to us in the circle, kind of bringing this idea of being in a community or being in a circle into the digital space. So we often say, pass to the person next to you on your screen, knowing that my screen might be different than your screen, and that's okay. So for example, I'm in between Allison and Brooklyn on my screen, but Dora, you're next to us on the other side. So that could be a way of like, yeah, trying to bring this concept of being in community or being in a circle together.
I do just want to call out a couple of answers in the chat that we have. Crystal said cloudy with a chance of rain. Like I said, if you're not able to access the Menti, please feel free to put your answer in the chat and we can read them out. Yeah. I also want to mention something that Allison put in the chat as well. She says that when we're in person, we always do grow-in questions in a big circle so that it's a little bit easier to naturally pass to the person sitting next to us. Yes, we do have an in-person facility, which the teens are not at right now. However, when we were in person, we would do grow-in questions always to start off our day. And well, like Allison said, it's easier to pass it to the person next to us. Paula says hot and stormy. I'm going to read Jude's out. Jude Hussein, is that how you pronounce your last name? Okay. Jude Hussein, 23, LaSalle University alum, Foundations Inc., and sunny with scattered showers. Nice. We can take a couple more, and whether it's in the Menti or you put yours in the chat and reading them out, or you can unmute yourself and say it. But I do just want to take a minute to explain why we do go-around questions and like the intentionality around them. The reason we do them, like I mentioned in the beginning, is to get to know people and to get people moving. We choose go-around questions with intention depending on the event that we're facilitating. For example, if we are doing a skill building workshop, for example, Train the Trainer, which is where facilitators teach teens how to facilitate, whether it's in the virtual or in-person space. There might be a go-around question related to facilitation or working as a team. Sometimes the go-around questions are completely off that spectrum, where we'll ask, what's your favorite milkshake flavor? So it's really just depending on the mood of the space and taking the idea of like reading the room per se, whether you're in person or virtual, and kind of using that to create a effective go-around question and energizer. Let me take a look at the chat because it was running while I was talking. Dora says that they're kind of weather. They're a tutor at Fraser School in Chicago. They're 72, and I wasn't able to find their answer in the chat, but I love seeing all the positive feedback that we are getting. We're going to take about maybe 60 more seconds to put our answers into the Menti or in the chat before we can move on. And on behalf of the VOX team that is here, we appreciate y'all for participating in this go around. Cool. So we can now move on to the Energizer, which is another VOX staple. The reason we do Energizers is also to get people moving and to see people's faces if they feel so inclined to turn on their camera. There is something called an energizing icebreaker, which it's exactly what it says. It's an icebreaker that also gets people moving. But there can also be separate Energizers and separate icebreaker games. For the sake of this, we are going to be doing an Energizer, something fairly laid back and simple. We're going to do a dance party. So this will be a chance for you all to get up and move around if you feel so inclined to do so. If you want to show off your dance moves, please feel free. However, we are not making you. So I'm going to play about a song and a half, and you all can move around. And prompts will be shared up on the screen. And so if you feel so inclined to share your moves with us, as I play the music, you can basically do what the prompt is saying. And with that being said, I'm going to play some music. I see in my blood, I can never change. Running in my soul, I can never break. Pinky off the glass, really change the pace. I just wanna kick it with my groove. They just want the lights like, feeling like the world is mine. Walking with a new step. I'm just too cold. I see from my head to toe. They like it. I'm just too cold. I see. Only way I know. I'm just too smooth like a finger wave. Watch me with that tide, I can never fade. Even if I know it's still on my face. Pinky off the glass, really change the pace. I just wanna kick it with my groove. They just want the lights on. Feeling like the world is mine. Walking with a new style. I'm just too cold. I see from my head to toe. My head to toe. They like it. I'm just too cold. Wait till the cold. I see. Only way I know. Only way I know. I'm just too. I'm just too cold. Yeah. Touching my feet. I'm just too cold. Just too cold. I see from my head to toe. They like it. Just too. Okay, well, that was our Energizer. I love the moves that I was seeing. That was great. So if you did show off your dance moves, if you danced behind your camera, I hope you got up and potentially stretched, got some water if you needed to. And yeah, same with the Garon questions and the Energizers. We choose them with intention. So reading the room, depending on the event that we are facilitating, whether it is within the VOX space or outside of the VOX space, we choose them with intention. I kind of wanted to weave in mindful moments as well. We added mindful moments in to our programming, whether that be external or internal, as a way to recenter ourselves. And we typically do this at the beginning of every workshop. Like I said, to kind of just reset and make sure that we are in the right headspace just for the event. And that could look like doing some deep breathing, closing our eyes and doing 5-finger breathing, anything that kind of brings us back to centering. And it's also calming. So yeah, those are 2 ways that we build community within the space. I'm going to pass it to Allison.
Thanks, Brooklyn. I appreciate you talking about the intentionality between with that we make decisions with what we're going to start off an agenda with. Sometimes people will say, oh, you only have an hour for a skill building workshop or a facility
Nice, frozen.
things off.
Allison,
Sorry,
you froze for a quick sec.
I did.
You were back
Am
to
I
the
back
free
now?
frame. Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, the Zoom life. My internet never seems to want to work when I need it. I like seeing all of these answers in the chat about different energizers. If you have other suggestions, I feel like folks are always looking for new energizer suggestions. So please put them in the chat. We can all benefit from it. I wanted to share one of my favorite ones that we do at VOX, which is a 60-second scavenger hunt. And that's when the facilitator gives a super random prompt. It could be something just fun, like go find something green and something fluffy, or it could be something a little bit more specific, like find something really meaningful to you. And then everybody has 60 seconds to go find those objects and bring them back. And then you get to know a little bit about everybody in the room when they share about whatever object they brought. And what I was trying to say before I think I froze was that we find it's really important to start every activity off with these different things, with a go around, a welcome, a go around, an agenda overview, an energizer, even if it takes up half of the time that we have reserved for an activity, because it really sets the stage and helps people feel a little bit more comfortable. And they also provide an opportunity for everybody to start talking. And so then you're going to feel much more comfortable talking later on in the activity. Whereas, if you don't have a chance to actually say something in the beginning, you might feel a little bit less comfortable talking. And they also provide different ways for folks just to laugh and have fun and to start to build that sense of community, even when you're only with the group for a little bit. I want to say, Michael, I hope I got your name right. Seeing Michael's dance moves really, that made my day. And so that makes me feel a little bit more connected to everybody, just getting to laugh and see that side of folks. All right, I'm going to pass it back to Brooklyn for another VOX staple. We've got a lot of VOX staples that we're sharing with you today to talk about our ground rules.
We do. I was just about to mention that we are going to do ground rules next. So Rachel is going to share a virtual whiteboard, which you all will be able to annotate. But the next thing you're going to do is we are going to talk about ground rules. Ground rules are basically agreements that are set by teams. They're agreements that are set by teams for what they need to feel comfortable in the space. For example, we have the 1 mic rule, meaning that if someone is talking, everyone else is silent and just respectful of the other person speaking. In the case of the virtual space, making sure that you are muted if you are not the one speaking, which you all are doing wonderfully. So I'm going to quickly type ground rules as a title, and I want you all to annotate on the screen. If you are on a mobile device, please feel free to put your rules in the chat, and they can be scribed for you. But we want you all to come up with things that you feel you need right now in this moment to feel comfortable in this space.
While folks are adding different ground rules, I wanted to share one of our favorite ones at VOX, which we call the High School Musical rule. I don't know if anybody else has seen that Disney Channel original movie from many years ago. Classic. We all love it. And that is that we're all in this together. So remembering that we're all here to accomplish the same goals. And that's especially great when people are working on a project together. And it might be tempting, if you've got a lot going on, to ghost or something like that. And so just remembering that everybody's got your back and that we're all here to support each other. So if you need some help, that it's okay. It's totally okay to reach out and ask, and somebody will make sure that they're there to support you, and vice versa.
Yes, that's what I put HSM, which in short means High School Musical. I do just want to call out that Imani, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, I hope so. And I know you mentioned something about the Vegas rule, which, just to quickly explain what that is, if you know the saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, that's kind of basically what we're trying to say in terms of facilitation, and just depending on what event we are doing whenever we're in the Vox space, it's basically a rule of confidentiality and saying whatever happens within this space stays in this space unless it is hurting you or someone else. If that is the case, then we would have to go to the adult staff, which all the female identifying adult staff are social workers. So if you have something that you need or need to talk about, they are always free to help you and talk about anything that you need to. But that's basically what the Vegas rule means. Oh, and I already see that people are like annotating, putting stamps around the things that they resonate with, which I was just about to say that, but y'all are already on it. Yeah, so when we do ground rules, if we're doing it in the digital space, if we are using a whiteboard and people are writing or scribing, if you will, we will ask them to put stamps or a check mark or a little scribble next to the ones that they resonate with, which y'all are doing, and that makes me feel great to see. So let me see, did anyone write anything else in the chat? Oh, I saw someone mention the don't go ghost rule, and someone asked about Danny Phantom. So Danny Phantom is basically, well, it means don't go ghost, which it just means clear communication. So making sure that whatever you committed to, you commit to. An example could be, I said I would help support this workshop today. If I had not shown up, that would be an example of what not to do, especially if I hadn't communicated that I would not be able to make it. But I am here in the flesh to help talking about building community in the Vox space with you all. So yeah, that is an example of what Danny Phantom means. I hope I answered your question. I see a couple more in the chat about the specific rules. I know someone asked about HSM. Just as a refresher, if you didn't hear the first time, HSM is High School Musical. We based it off of the original Disney movie called High School Musical. They have a song called We're All in This Together. And that basically just means that we really are all in this together, just working as team facilitators and adult staff, knowing that the adult staff they're here for us and we are here for them as supporters, whether it be facilitating or making promotion posters or posting about different events, just knowing that we are all here to help each other. And we also use a range of digital tools for ground rules, whether that be a whiteboard, Minty, Jamboard, what have you. We have discovered a plethora of digital tools that we use in the Vox space for different things. I'm gonna check the chat one last time to see if there are any more questions. Let's see. Oh, oops, ouch. Good one. So I put oops, ouch, and that basically just means that if there's anything that is said, whether it be in the chat or verbally, that makes someone else uncomfortable, that you basically just say oops and the other person, or no, you say ouch and the other person says oops, basically just as a way to acknowledge that the other person hurt your feelings. That does vary from depending on the situation, whether we are in person or in the virtual space. Like I said, it varies for different situations, but in short, it basically just means that you need to acknowledge that you hurt someone's feelings if someone communicates that whatever you did hurt them in some kind of way. And yeah, if there aren't any more rules or questions about said rules, we can move on. I appreciate y'all for putting your rules onto the whiteboard and putting down things that you all feel that you need to feel safe and comfortable in the space. So with that being said, we can.
Is it okay if I add one thing real quick, Brooklyn?
Yes, you can.
So one of the most important reasons we use ground rules is because then we can refer back to them as a community. And so it's really helpful. Sometimes we all are here with good intentions and that sort of thing, but sometimes things don't go the way we want them to, or in a way that's creating a brave space for everybody. So the facilitators are able to refer back and be like, hey, we all agreed to these ground rules. So just want to remind everybody that these are the ways that we want to show up for each other, and that these are the things that we all need to have a space where we feel comfortable and we can be our full and authentic selves and all participate on a level playing field. And we always say that it's a living, breathing document so that you can add things, and sometimes folks need a refresher on them, and that's totally fine, because life is messy and being in community together is hard and challenging. And so it's a great way to hold ourselves accountable because it's something that everybody agrees to. And when we're in person, we all like to sign our name on whatever the big Post-it note as a physical representation of our agreement. So thanks, Brooklyn. I'll pass it back to you.
Cool. That was perfectly said. So we are going to move in to talk about programming and the different types that we have at VOX. I'm going to talk about the first one, which is team leadership. There are numerous different types of leadership in the VOX space. I know I mentioned in my introduction that I am a teen staff writer, and I was a former editor. And so there are different types of leadership, whether that be being a teen editor, being a teen board member, supporting over the summer. There are numerous types of leadership that you can do. And I do want to mention that the different types of leadership and roles, it is not for lack of a better word, I'm going to say competition. So no one is higher than the other. If I'm an editor and someone is everyone is a staff writer, but if you, for example, basically all the roles that we have, it's not a ranking. And so everyone has different leadership roles, and everyone can get to different leadership roles. I've been with VOX for almost 3 years. And when I first started, I was not an editor. I started off writing for VOX, as I still do, and continuing with my facilitation journey and just working with them, I wanted to up my leadership. And so I found different ways that I could help out, whether that be facilitation, making promotional flyers, etc., what have you. And here I am now. So there are different types of leadership within the space that vary, and that every team is able to get to. The next thing I want to talk about is facilitation training, or train the trainer, if you will. And that is basically a two-part workshop process where former facilitators or the current teen staff will help out new teams that are new to VOX what facilitation is. And in short, it basically means to guide or make something easier. And so we basically lead them through different skill building activities and just different ways of teaching them what facilitation is and how we do it in the VOX space. That could be conflict resolution, making sure that everyone is heard. And so, for example, instead of asking, do you have any questions, asking what questions do you have, because that's more open-ended and it leaves room for people to ask questions if they feel so inclined to do so. I feel like that's facilitation training in a nutshell. However, there are like numerous different nuances and just like nitty-gritty parts to facilitation. 1 second, I'm gonna look at the chat because I have been talking at y'all for a second. I'm gonna read out what Rachel said, if that's okay. Can I read out what you said, Rachel? Okay. Rachel says, from a community building standpoint, our philosophy is that everyone is shown how to and welcome to opt in to all leadership activities. Anyone can attend train the trainer. Exactly. So that's a good point that I forgot to mention, that once you do train the trainer, you are a VOX facilitator, meaning that you are you're able and eligible to opt into whatever whatever event or facilitation role that may come up. If you feel comfortable to opt into it, you can. Most facilitators typically start off with doing or facilitating a internal VOX event, and that just means that it would be something within the VOX space that does not include potential community partners or outside organizations working with VOX. That's an external event. And those are typically done once the facilitator has facilitated a couple of things. And it's a lot harder in the virtual space, if I'm being completely transparent. And so we have really been working hard to convey that facilitation, it's not easy. And over Zoom, it's a little more complicated, and especially conveying that like energy. I said during a workshop that energy is reciprocated, and so whatever energy you bring to the space, that is what is going to be reciprocated back. So I hope that my energy is positive and welcoming. I hope that y'all feel it. So I'm going to pass it to Allison to say a couple more.
Thanks, Brooklyn. So one thing that we've talked about a little bit already is how every single thing can be used to build community. A lot of times we talk about community building activities, and we certainly do things that are more traditional in that sense, but everything that we do at VOX is specifically selected to make sure that all the teens and the adults involved, whether that's the adult staff or the volunteers, feel like they're a part of the VOX community. And so the things that Brooklyn talked about, we work hard to make sure that everybody feels like they're a valued member of the community. And so by encouraging teens to co-facilitate activities like this one or different skill building workshops where they have a lot of expertise, it shows them and their peers that their voices are valued just as much as the adults, and that what they bring to the table is just as important. We've also started doing things like Netflix parties and game nights, and then unstructured coffee and conversation is what we call it. But of course, you can bring other beverages of your choice. So I would encourage y'all to think about free things like that you can do that are just fun, and that teens don't feel like there's anything that has to be accomplished, that it's just there to enjoy each other's company and get to know each other better. And if you have other ideas for stuff like that, please put them in the chat. We'd love to hear them. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead, Brooklyn.
I forgot to mention publishing meetings. I was going in the order of the Post-it notes, but another thing that we do for programming is publishing meetings. So we produce different content types here at VOX. And so the number one thing that we do, or at least, that we do, are publishing meetings. When we were in person, they were held on Wednesdays from 5 to 7 p.m., I believe. And that semester's group of editors would come to the publishing meetings, and any teen who was interested in showing up could basically come with any ideas that they have for content, whether that be audio, video, written, whether they want to come up with a new series for social media or a new like art piece. That's where we would go if we have any ideas. The first step is usually filling out a pitch form, which is given out via our senior editor and publishing director, Maurice Garland and Rich Eldridge. They would basically talk about the importance of the pitch forms, which is the first step. You would say what your idea is, what type of content you want to do, why you think it's important, and what support you need with it. Because we're in the virtual space, publishing meetings have been held kind of on and off, depending on people's availability, and considering that we are in the virtual space, so things can be a little bit more difficult to move around, but those are things that we hold to build community and learn about the different content types. I know I cut you off, Allison. I did not mean to. I just wanted to get that word in so I didn't forget. So I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Brooklyn. So another thing that we've really emphasized for sure is low-tech ways to build community. We're grateful for the ability to transition all of our programming to the Zoom space, absolutely. And I don't know about y'all, but I think we all feel like we've spent more than enough time on Zoom. So we're extra grateful that you're willing to spend this time with us here. And so a few things that we created to help build a sense of community, even when we're not together on a Zoom screen, we've shared them up here. One thing that we started doing was just unstructured in-person meetups outside, because it wasn't safe to go back to our office in downtown Atlanta, but we still wanted to see people in real life, because there were a lot of teens that we had never gotten to meet before, or hadn't gotten to meet each other. And so we were able to find a few places that we could rent outdoors and offer a chance for teens to come and hang out. There was no agenda. We did do a go around question because we can't have an activity without a go around question, but simply a time to hang out and get to know each other a little better and see what people look like in person. We're really grateful to have the funding to be able to purchase supplies and mail care packages to teens. And so I understand that's not an option for every organization, but there are some low cost options or low cost versions that you could do of this one. We call them VOX boxes, and every teen shared with us what their favorite snack was. And then we mailed that to them along with a note from the editors and a t-shirt, some fun supplies, that sort of thing. And we were really blown away by how much that meant to the teens. And they all would share the pictures of them when they got in the mail. When they got them in the mail, they would do unboxing videos for us, that sort of thing. And I know mail isn't as popular these days, but yes, like Paula said in the chat, it really is the best. I love getting mail. I appreciate the time that somebody takes to send me something. And so that the love was really felt by the teens for sure. And towards that end, we also, a low cost version would be to send notes in the mail. So like Brooklyn mentioned, we have teen editors each semester. So we have everybody write a note, create a shared document, everybody adds a note, and then I print them out and mail them to teens. And so it's a way for teens to know that you really care about them and you value them, and that you want them to feel welcome, and to know that you're glad that they're a part of the VOX community. We've also put a little bit more emphasis on birthday celebrations this year. So just as simple as keeping track of everybody's birthdays and doing shout outs to them on their special day. We have a group me chat. I don't know if y'all use different tech features like that to stay in touch with everybody that you work with, but that's a great way to give everybody a chance to share a little bit of virtual love. So it is using technology, but at least it's not on Zoom. And then we also were grateful to be able to send everybody birthday cookies in the mail. So that was something fun we were able to do, and just another way to let folks know that they're a valued member of the community. And so we're excited to keep doing things like that, even when we're back in person, because it's nice to have that personal and individualized touch for sure. And I love doing stuff like that. So if y'all have other ideas, please put them in the chat so I can add them to my repertoire. I think it's a really important part of building community with a group. And so something that I really value and emphasize for sure.
Yeah, as someone who has received a VOX box, a birthday shout out, birthday cookies, and notes in the mail, I can say that they are wonderful. And I love that this has translated over to the virtual space. And I'm like grateful that we are able to just send things out to teens that that are a part of the VOX staff and team. So with that being said, I'm going to start talking about the different content types, because content is really exciting, and I adore talking about it, because the content that teens make is absolutely like unbelievable. I love it. In terms of the different content types, there's audio, video, written, and then there are different categories underneath written: op-ed, opinion, Vox 5, music reviews, film reviews, advice column, anything you could think of. And we basically use those to build community, one of them being that people love to see teen content. I think one of the most exciting things is seeing a message in the group me saying, "Hey, my article just came out. Could you check it out? Could you share it?" And people really do read these pieces, like they do. And like seeing the amount of likes on a piece, seeing a featured piece, people read them and the website gets clicked on. And I think that it's a really important thing, and that builds community, because for example, the piece that's shared on the screen, or the one that was in the corner, and the two that are being shared right now, people relate to these. For example, what the heck is imposter syndrome and how to shake those feelings off, that was written by Emma Mack, a former VOX editor and teen staff member. She wrote that, and she did the art herself, and just talked about her experience with imposter syndrome and ways to combat that. And I think that that's super important, because teens may experience feelings of imposter syndrome but not know what that is. And so the fact that there's an article that puts words to how teens are feeling, I think that's the most important thing. To the left, we have a screenshot of one of our podcast series called Girl Talk. It was created by Vox alumna Jasmine Martin. She created this podcast series as a way for female identifying teens to come on and talk about their experiences. I actually did an episode recently where I revamped Girl Talk, because for about a year we hadn't produced an episode due to COVID and just navigating different ways to create content during this time. But I was able to rally up a couple of my fellow Vox teen staff who were female identifying, and we kind of just dished it all out and talked about how we were doing in terms of school, and just what was going on in our world. And that's just a touch of the content that we produce. Like I said, there are a million different types, and I know I didn't talk about any of the content that I produce, but I do produce content. I chose not to show mine, just because I didn't want to be a little modest. I wanted to show off the content that my friends had done, but I do produce content here at Vox, and it's a really exciting experience, and it's gratifying, and it's just great to see people reading the pieces and to see the excitement and the positive comments that people get when they read our pieces. I'm gonna look at the chat because, like I said earlier, I've been talking to y'all for a second.
Now, one thing I wanted to note is obviously we're focused on digital media as one of our main program platforms. And I know not everybody on here is, you're not all media organizations, but I think that having opportunities for program participants to express themselves and their experience in your program is really important. And that could be something like having different opportunities. We call them speak out stations, where you can offer up prompts and then different ways for participants to share what they're going through about a specific topic or just how their day has been. And that could be through creating a collage or having supplies like watercolors or crayons or markers or something like that. We do different writing prompts. If you have access to digital media equipment like video or audio, or even just you can use a phone for something like that, and people can record themselves talking, and you can, there are a lot of different ways to publish those and put together different digital media pieces. Rachel, is there anything that you would say for somebody who might not, you're not a digital media organization, but want an opportunity for your participants to share their voices?
Yeah, one thing that came to mind for me is celebrating young people's experiences in your program. So using the tools of art or media to share out what's a day in the life of your program. How do young people appreciate or experience your after school or summer program? That's a great visibility and authentic, as long as it's done authentically, it's a great opportunity to market your program with the meaningful engagement of youth. They can also use their voice to co-create the sense of community that this whole session is modeling. So involving young people in making the rules of the space, creating community around what activities might they want to do. Hey, I learned about all these low-tech ways some other organizations in Atlanta and across the country are doing it. What would you want to do for just a chill connection time? Or what's your favorite game from last year, and how can we bring it to our virtual or hybrid programming? Those are all ways that we've connected with youth through VOX to amplify their voices, whether it's in the virtual space or the physical space, even outside of the media platform.
Thanks, Rachel. We do social emotional support groups. We're not a therapeutic organization, but we like to provide opportunities for teens and adults to share different healthy coping strategies. And we have found that self-expression is a great way to do that. So we'll sometimes have folks create zines or collages, and those are things that can be done digitally or with hard supplies, with specific art supplies, just using paper and things you have around the house, that sort of thing. And so sometimes we'll have everybody just get on Zoom and play some music and create that together too. So that's a fun way for teens to be, or participants of any age really, to be able to express themselves without having to have a product that you publish at the end, but something that they can have for themselves.
Yeah, made me think of like culture wheels or identity icebergs, creating things in real time and then sharing it with each other, or choosing which parts you want to share publicly. It still involves the creation process, which is an outlet, not only a connection to that social emotional development, but creating connections while modeling healthy boundaries with each other.
Thanks, Rachel. I know that we're coming close to the end of our time together. So before we do a closing activity, another VOX staple, we can't have any activity without a closing. If anybody has any specific questions for Brooklyn, Rachel, or myself, we'd love to answer them. You can unmute yourself and say it out loud or type it in the chat. Or if you have suggestions or recommendations for everybody here, we'd love to hear that too.
How do you deal with your community or someone in the community that has a lot of background noise or is in a room that's so noisy?
Brooklyn, will you answer that?
Yeah, I was going to take that question. So in the event that, I just saw another question in the chat. So to answer your question, in the event that someone does have a lot of active background noise or an active background, we typically ask them to put their answer in the chat if they are being mindful of their surroundings. And that's basically the way that that we communicate. If it's an internal event and they have access to the GroupMe and they want to message that their background is like a little hectic, they can, and that way we can acknowledge it and potentially pass it to someone else, or wait for them to put their answer in the chat. If it is external, then we will just ask them to put their answer in the chat for those reasons. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Can I jump in here and just also say we have, that's why we do a tech check at the very beginning too, because sometimes it's hard to call people out, right? And be like, hey, your camera is facing the ceiling fan, or it's really loud in your background. Obviously, once we're in a brave and connected space, it's reasonable to say, if I said to Brooklyn, or if she said to me, there's a lot of noise in your background, I can't really hear. That's not an oops, ouch, because we're already so connected, right? But it's hard sometimes at the beginning. So tech check lets us level set for everybody. And then the last tip I would say is, if it's possible to give people headphones, we always encourage the use of headphones if that's possible. And I know Allison mentioned sending out supplies. We're grateful to have the funding to be able to do that. We've also been able to lend technology supplies as well for young people who need it to be able to opt into our virtual programming. So headphones.
Thank you.
I would like to add, because I saw a note in the chat asking about identity icebergs, which Allison put links to in the chat if you all want to check them out. But identity icebergs, it's an activity that we do, like it says in the name, as an icebreaker. It could be used as an icebreaker to get to know people better. And that's basically where you have a picture of an iceberg, or we'll be asked to draw our own iceberg, and the top of it are surface level things. For example, I'm Black, so I could write that. So race could be a factor. Age could potentially be a factor. Pink hair could potentially be a factor, because my hair is colored. Curly hair could be a factor. So things that you see surface level could be things that you write down. Things below on the iceberg are things that people can't see just by looking at you. For example, I play guitar on the bottom one, just because unless I told you, you wouldn't know. But I mean, you could basically put anything underneath the iceberg that you feel people don't see just by looking at you. That could mean by the words. that could be me saying that I get nervous when talking in front of people sometimes, which is true. I do get nervous talking in front of people sometimes. And so that could be one. But they range from person to person, and I think that's what that activity does in terms of building community. It allows everyone to get to know each other. And because they vary, it just allows for people to learn more about each other. So that's a little blurb about identity icebergs. I hope I answered your question. Oh, we're about to, Allison, were you gonna say something?
Nope, go for it, Brooklyn. You can lead our closing activity.
Okay, cool. So as Allison mentioned earlier, our closing activity, we always have a closing. We always start with a go around, and we always end with the closing as a VOX staple. Today's closing, we're going to be using Menti again, like you all used in the beginning. So like it says at the bottom, go to menti.com and enter that code. And so today's closing is Rosebud Thorn. And like I mentioned earlier about intentionality and choosing things with intention, we do the same thing with closings. So go arounds, closings, certain activities, we all choose it with intention depending on what the day is going to look like, what event it is, whether it's an internal, external, what the feeling of the room is. So yeah, we choose all these things with intention. And so for today's closing, it'll be Rosebud Thorn, rose being one thing that you loved, bud being one thing that you want to see more of, and a thorn is one thing that you would wish gone differently. I'll model it again, just in case, and I'll go first. I'll reintroduce myself, Brooklyn Williams, 16, pronouns she, her. I attend the New School of Atlanta, and A rose would probably be seeing your dance moves during the mini dance party. That made me smile. A bud, something I wanted to see more of. I'm not sure. I don't think I have a bud. And a thorn, something that could have gone differently. I honestly don't know. I feel like it's really all been roses. If like honestly, I've felt good this entire time. So yeah. And I'm gonna pass it to Allison if she wants to go next.
Sure, thanks, Brooklyn. My rose was also the dance moves. I loved that, and I loved hearing new ideas. Even though we were presenting, I got some new ideas that I'm excited to try out. So thanks for sharing that. I think Bud is always wanting to have more chances for interaction on Zoom, and that's just something that we can always do more of. And then Thorn, usually it's technology related. I wish that my technology was perfect, and it's not, but that's okay. And I know that we're at 4 o'clock right now, so we want to say a big thank you. We're super grateful that y'all were willing to share this time with us and share your ideas too. And we're can't wait to see what y'all do next with your programs as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Allison and Brooklyn and Rachel. We want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us, and we hope you will come back Wednesdays throughout the summer for another Beyond School Hours follow-up webinar. Keep an eye out for our opening of registration for Beyond School Hours Conference. We'll be in Orlando, February 23rd through the 26th in 2022. So again, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your time, and come back and see us again.
Bye.